Hello and welcome, my beautiful little fireflies. I am wild_imagination, and today I will be giving you my first ever podfic. Today I will be reading Lost Humanity, but Is It Really Lost? By This Is My User _happy on AO3. Here is the summary. After Izuku Midoriya becomes something less than human, he must find a way to cope with his past, while also making sure his family doesn't get caught by heroes who misunderstand the situation entirely. Or, LOV can't say no to the little green bean Nomu and ends up kidnapping a purple coffee and cat addicted insomniac when he asks him to. Today I'll be reading chapter 1 and chapter 2 because they are technically the same chapter. Chapter 1, Prologue, The Dream. "Wait up, Kak-chan," called a small, high-pitched voice as children ran around the playground. "Hurry up, Izuku. If you want to be a hero in the future, you need to learn how to keep up," replied the voice of a sandy blonde boy with bright red eyes as they slowed down a little, allowing the other child, who seems to have forest green hair and bright emerald eyes, to catch up to him at last. Waking with a gasp, Izuku awoke in a panic. Looking around, they started to calm down as they recognized the room they were in. "I'm fine. It was just a silly dream. Nothing to worry about. Calm down, Izuku," they thought to themselves as they laid back down on the bed they were lying on. Chapter 1, Meeting the Noobs. Izuku walked slowly down the hall and into the bar where he found Shigaraki and Kurogiri waiting for him. "Hello, Izuku." Hello, Izu. How was your sleep?" the brunette asked when he saw Izuku enter the room. "I slept quite well. What about you, Tomu?" replied the smaller male as he took a seat at the bar next to Tomura. Tomura stayed silent for a moment, nervous to admit he didn't sleep that night because he was playing video games the entire time. "I, slept well, Izu," he finally answered whilst avoiding eye contact with Izuku and instead looking at the drink in his hands. Izuku just nodded, sensing the lie but not calling him out on it as he took a sip from the mug Kurogiri had placed in front of him. They sat there for a few minutes before the small TV-like screen on the wall at the end of the bar lit up. "Boys, I want to let you know that we will be having some guests today. I expect you both to treat them nicely as they are potential allies that I have selected for you both," a crackly voice said over the screen before they continued. "And Izuku, please visit the doctor at some point. You're due for another checkup to make sure your body is still working well with your quirks." Sighing as the TV switched off again, Izuku stood from the bar stool and looked at the two people near him. "Guess I'll see you guys later. Don't annoy Kuro too much while I'm gone, Tomu," he called as he walked out with a wave and smile. Time skipped to after the checkup because the author is far too lazy to write that scene and doesn't remember anything about the doctor. Izuku walked out of the lab with a slight limp due to tripping on one of the test tube wires on his way out. "Stupid doctor, trying to push Sensei into letting him test his failures on me," the greenette thought to himself bitterly as he growled under his breath. At least Sensei never lets him. If he did do anything, I'm sure Sensei would deal with him. But the fact I have to come in again each month still bothers me. He continues to walk, lost in his own thoughts. Approaching the door to the bar part of the base, Izuku froze and listened. Voices were on the other side of the door, and not just Tomura and Kurogiri this time. Which means that the guests have finally arrived. Quickly, Izuku ran silently down the hall and up the stairs to his room, where he allowed his form to change and put on his mask. Arriving back downstairs, Izuku walked into the bar to find Tomura talking with a tall boy covered in purple burn scars, and a blonde girl in a school uniform who was playing with a knife. "Shigaraki?" Izuku asked as he walked in, the plain black mask on his face covering his mouth, making him sound muffled. Turning towards him, Tomura's eyes softened and the other boys narrowed. "Kuro, good to see you have arrived," I would like to introduce you to... Tomura stopped partway through his sentence when the boy shoved past him and signaled to the girl, who pinned Tomura to the ground. Who are you? The boy asked, backing Izuku up against the door he just came through, glaring at him while the girl giggled behind him. I'm Kuro. Who are you, and why are you pinning Shigaraki down? Izuku replied calmly, narrowing his eyes at the boy in return as he slipped past him and hauled the girl off Tomura. Amused, the boy turned back to him and did a mock bow. I'm Dabi. There's a Toga. We came to see what all this fuss about a villain group collecting a number of thugs for some sort of attack is. The boy, no, Dabi, replied, raising from the bow and beckoning the girl over to him when he introduced her. Tomura scoffed as Izuku moved to stand next to him and Kurogiri placed down the glass he was previously polishing to properly watch the interaction. Well, you've come and seen. I told you our plans. If you want to help, then you can. If not, then leave. Tomura snapped, straightening the hand on his face in irritation before moving to sit at a stool once more. Staying silent, the two walked out the door. Izuku watched them leave, slightly curious before straightening again as they walked back in a few minutes later. Obviously, only having left so they could discuss. We won't join you for this attack, but we would like to join your little group. Dabi spoke as he leaned against the wall and Toga bounced in place. Fine, you can join the group, but if you do anything Sensei doesn't like, then pray you get to leave alive, answered Tomura as he looked at them, annoyed that they've been wasting the time he could be using for his own personal benefits, like training with Izuku. Oh yay! Dabi, did you hear that? They said we could join them! Squealed Toga as she ran and hugged Dabi suddenly. Grunting, Dabi patted her on the head and hummed in acknowledgement before turning to look at Izuku. We know Handyman and Miss Guy's quirks. Thanks already, but not yours. What's your quirk? He asked as Izuku looked back at him. Everyone was silent for a moment before Izuku replied to the question. My quirk is called Creature. Gives me creature-like features that I can hide at will. It also allows me to turn into a large creature. That is all I will tell you about it. Impressed, Dabi nodded while Toga ran over to him to ask more questions about him while Dabi sat at the bar near Tomura as they watched the two teams interact. Okay, that's technically chapter 1 and 2, however the prologue was so short that I just kind of added it into chapter 1. There is a note in the middle of the technically chapter 1 area. I skipped over it and I'm gonna read it now. Okay. Author here to quickly gather something up for readers before continuing. Izuku has 3 forms, human, half-Nomu, and Nomu. Izuku's human form looks like him in canon, but with lots more scars and his eyes look like a toxic emerald green. And he is thin and smaller than most. His half-Nomu form is mostly human, but has large feathery wings, green pupils, with black surrounding them, small demon-like horns poking out of his hair, and slightly sharper teeth. This is also the form he is in when out on missions or meeting people he doesn't know. And finally, his full form. This form has large, broken-looking but feathered wings that he can use to fly and shield himself, slit-like green pupils, a long whip-like tail, body like a large wolf-like creature, and long demon-like horns sprouting from his head that are used for attacking. His teeth are also a lot sharper and can bite through most metals, including steel. This form is only ever really used as a last resort on missions, but also what he appears to be when they face UA and All Might. Izuku also has full control of himself in these forms, even his full Nomu form. He just acts like he has no control, so the heroes don't suspect that he could fight back if they tried to capture him. I don't know what quirks to give him yet, so some suggestions in the comments, but I will say that he only ever tells people one of his quirks when they ask, which you will learn about soon. He also will have a max of 10 to 15 quirks, so if you don't see your suggestion there, then please don't be upset. Might use it for a future story or an OC. And that's that. In the end notes of chapter 1, there is the format of how to do it, which is quirk, quirk description, and then drawbacks. They've also asked that people leave some plot ideas, but not ships for the story, since they already have those planned out. Now, this is still a work in progress. Currently, there are technically 9 chapters out. This is also a Shindeku story. Some characters' ages have been changed to suit the plot. And there will be swearing throughout it, as well as other things that will slowly be mentioned throughout it. I'll try and do trigger warnings before, however, I'm not sure if there will be any. They have put in the archive warnings that there will be graphic depictions of violence, and there will be female and female relationships, female and male relationships, and male relationships. So, yeah. I hope you all have a lovely day, night, or evening. And I will see you all in the next video, whether it be one of my gachas or another podfic, I am unsure. Also, if you're wondering why my recording sounds all weird and I mess up on some things, I'm not editing the audio in any way, shape, or form, just leaving it completely how it is. If I notice that it is very splotchy in a lot of places, I will completely re-record the audio. Also, sorry if my mic is awful. I'm doing this on my iPad, so I don't actually have a microphone. So, yes. However, I do hope you enjoyed, and do check out that story on AO3. And fun fact, if you check the comments and don't see that I've asked permission, I am the writer of the fic. I wasn't able to use my actual user of my YouTube channel onto that, so I had to do a different one. But just know that any fic that I do read, I either get permission from the original author, or it is my own fic. Yeah, bye bye.